I decided to finally build a platform bird feeder for my backyard with my boys, and I was surprised by the diversity of birds that were attracted to it, especially one very unexpected visitor. Conveniently, for my birthday, I was given a trail camera by my family, and this would make the perfect first opportunity to use it, as we were going to be out of state for a week. Leading up to our trip, I had been seeing several individual Say's phoebes and a group of western bluebirds on the barbed wire fence to the back pasture. So I thought with us gone and the backyard left to the birds, adding some mealworms to a feeder tray might attract some of these less common backyard visitors to our yard. Boy, was I surprised on what would show up. In general, platform feeders are a great addition to any backyard, and with the start of winter, I knew I wanted to offer our local birds a variety of feeding options. These feeders are known to attract a diverse array of birds, depending on what food source you have to offer, but seemingly, they're often overlooked when selecting a feeder. They do have their quirks. If they're not covered, you'll want to ensure you have good drainage to avoid your seeds from molding and rotting. And if weather is expected, offering just enough seed for a day or two to keep it fresh is appropriate. And unless you've got a superhero squirrel baffle, these feeders are like an open invitation to any neighborhood critters. So I'm not sure if these are some of the reasons they're more unpopular, but the birds seem to really like them, so I do too. I picture these as kind of a community dining table for our backyard birds. Now all I needed to do was build one, which was definitely an unpopular move on my part, with packing and other necessary preparations needing to occur before leaving on our trip. So what can I say? Maybe I do have a birding problem. And I thought it was just fishing that got me in trouble. Now I had some leftover redwood from building our raised beds last winter, which required ripping the 2x4s to 1 inch thick to build a platform frame. I then used pocket holes to secure the frame, sanded and stapled some metal mesh screen to the bottom, which I already had in my garage from a project long forgotten. But now that I have found it, I have some future plans to make mourning dove nesting baskets with it as well. Anyways, I sandwiched this all together by securing the remaining boards across the bottom to anchor the tray and act as a mounting point. A bit of woodworking, sanding, and some creativity with scraps, and voila! My DIY platform bird feeder was ready to roll.
So we put screening on the bottom, and then cut these wood open, and then drilled some little holes, and then we put the little pieces that came out back in there so the bird seed wouldn't go down there. And then we put wood on the bottom to keep it balanced, and then wood going straight down to hold it up.
I also somehow managed to still get packed and didn't get into too much trouble with my partner. A few thousand miles traveled, jet-lagged children, and hundreds of video files later. Let's check some of the highlights from the trail camera. Quietly capturing the lively action for a week resulted in shots of tons of sparrows and house finches, looking for an easy treat. It was a bustling bird buffet, to say the least, but still no Say's phoebe or western bluebirds. So I took a more hands-on approach and tried luring them in by first setting some mealworms on the barbed wire fence post to draw them closer to the yard, hopefully then attracting them to the feeding tray. This also gave me some opportunities to mess around with some additional cameras to try to get some more interesting shots of the birds visiting the feeder. I became hopeful that my plan just might work when observing a Say's phoebe feeding on the fence post mealworms that were offered to him. And we still had lots of sparrows and finches showing up. Until this happened. A sharp-shinned hawk began visiting our feeder. Sharp-shinned hawks are small raptors, known for their agile flight. They typically prey on smaller birds and are skilled at maneuvering through dense vegetation. When visiting bird feeders, sharp-shinned hawks often target smaller songbirds, utilizing the feeder as hunting ground. Their presence can temporarily disrupt the activity of a feeder, as other birds seek cover or find other feeding locations to avoid predation. So because of this new visitor, we decided the responsible action was to take down our newly established feeder, at least until the sharp-shinned found new hunting grounds. This was unfortunate for our endeavors to attract bluebirds to our yard, but it was the right thing to do. And while I was never able to get a picture of the hawk at our feeder, I was able to get these shots of it. While we never reached our goal of luring in a Say's phoebe or western bluebird to our yard, we did get them to the fence posts visible from our yard, and the platform feeders did attract a lot of new species, including yellow-rumped warblers, house wrens, mourning doves, and others. And that was awesome in itself. I'm sold on including this feeder type into our fall-winter feeder station arsenal. They seem to attract a diversity of birds to our yard, although in all transparency, you do need to keep a close eye on them, to make sure not to overload them with feed, and to be observant of weather because of seed rot. Ask me how I know. And for some additional tips for attracting more birds to your home, make sure to watch this next video.